Good afternoon. Today we're going to take a look at the intercompany solution for SAP Business One running through SaltBox. So to get started, let's log into SaltBox and let's take a look at the workflow. All right, now we've got hundreds of solutions integrated through SaltBox to Business One. The one we're going to look at today is the B1 Intercompany. Now, these are what we call the golden workflows. These are pretty much delivered with every intercompany deployment, but this list could grow substantially. You're not limited to these, and you may not need all of these as well. So when we say intercompany, it really means a lot of different things. It can be intercompany trade, the buying and selling between companies. In that case there, you'll see these workflows in here where we're creating a sales order to offset the purchase order. So company A puts in a PO to company B, and that creates the offsetting sales order. Then when company B ships the goods back to company A, then we have a delivery to a goods receipt. And so, but what it does is a lot of folks will run the delivery to goods receipt, or they will do a AP invoice and stop transfer. This way, or transfer request, this way the inventory sits in transit until it gets from company A to company B. So all of these workflows are completely tailorable, and you can add to this list. Now, what these workflows do, let's take a look at one. Let's take a look at some mass data replication. This would be creating new items. So in this particular workflow, basically what I have, let me show you my environment here. I'll just jump into one of my databases. But what we have is we have an intercompany master database. This is our database where all the items are entered, the GL codes and everything else. And then we have three subsidiary databases, demos 1, 2, and 3. And so what we're going to do, and we'll run this through SaltBox, is we'll add a new item in the master database. And then you'll see how that item will replicate out to the other databases through SaltBox. I don't think we have time to go through all of the scenarios, but we'll definitely talk about all of those. So that's the landscape that we're talking about. So I'm here in my consolidated master. This is where we're going to put in a new item. Now, before we go back to that, let's go back and let's look at that workflow. This is the workflow we're going to execute. And let's just bring up one of these. Now, a little bit about these workflows is you have some basic workflow settings. You know, what does this workflow do? Is it active, inactive? Are there any notifications? So if we add an item and for some reason it fails when going into one of the other databases, you know, who do we notify to let you know? Then we have some advanced processing settings. And this is really retention policy on how long do we keep successful and failed messages. Let's see, a couple of other options here. Is there a maximum number of retries, and do you allow bulk processing? A lot of these come into play if you're in a situation where you might have a product that's seasonal, and during a certain time of the year, the month, or the week, sales just multiply. And that's where we could turn on some bulk processing capabilities and really leverage SAP's semantic layer. Now there's some advanced settings as well. And right now this allows you to add some static variables that you can use in your workflows. So anyways, a lot to this, but it's very easy to set up. And this is a low code platform. So you have some initial workflow settings. Then we have the workflow trigger. And in the workflow trigger, what I want to get to down here is the bottom. Now what this is going to do is this is set to manual. So this means that anytime I add a new item, I need to log into SaltBox, run the workflow, so my other databases receive that new item master data. Now, and this would not be the normal setting, but it's this way so I can demo the product and actually show you how it works. Typically, this would be set up to about every 15, 20 minutes, maybe once an hour, whatever frequency you think works best for you, you're able to do. But this gives you the ability to set each individual golden workflow on its own timer. So here's a good example. Intercompany trade might be happening throughout the day. In that case, we'll probably use every 5-10 minutes process intercompany transactions. But you may only add new items once or twice a month, in which case then it makes sense to maybe have a daily trigger for that particular workflow. So this really gives you the best of both worlds. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's go back. We've looked at our workflow trigger. Let's now go into our workflow designer. The workflow designer is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we're going to put that new item in our first intercompany database and our second intercompany database. Now, I don't have it going into my third intercompany database because it's a completely different product line. So you get to pick and choose, and there's no limit to the number of companies you could be integrating with. Now, here's the other caveat, is that those other companies you're integrating with, they don't even have to be running SAP Business One. So this is agnostic to ERP system, but the advantage with Business One is that SaltBox exposes the DI API and leverages that service layer. So we have synchronous communications with Business One through multiple doorways. Okay, so on this create items, let's just take a look at the quick workflow here and how this visual mapper operates, how it's set up. It's actually pretty easy to set up. Now these little arrows you see here, or icons in front of the fields, are an indication to me that these are fields that are being mapped. Now, if I want to see the fields being mapped, I can click on Show Only Mapped Fields. And now I can see which fields are being mapped. And if I select a field, I can see from the API where that data is coming from. So any field I click on, this will show me exactly where that data is coming from. Now, let's say that I'm only using 4 fields right now. But again, this could be mapping every single field in the item master and including user-defined fields. Let's say that maybe we're using the foreign name for something. And so we want to map to that. Well, what I can do is I can select that field foreign name, and then I can come over here and I can drag and drop. And that's how easy it is to set up a mapping. So there's some really nice things you can do that will give you the ability to map fields by dragging and dropping and doing all kinds of things. Now, when we have a field that's mapped, down here, you can also apply some logic to it. And this is really powerful because if you're receiving, let's say you're receiving a date from some third-party product that uses a European format. Well, what you're able to do here is you're able to do some mapping and convert that date to Business One format, or run a SQL query to bring something else back. So this gives you some really nice capabilities where you don't have to be a programmer in order to do these things. Okay, so let's go ahead and if I go to my files icon, this just lists all of the contents of the files. You'll see the map here, the source item, the target item. You'll see some samples. So if you want to create a new item, here's a really good example on how to do it through XML. So you'll see all of the root files here that are needed. And then, of course, we have a message tab. And the message tab allows us to look at anything that may have failed or been successful. Let's go in here and let's just bring up all messages. And this will go out and bring up all messages for the last 24 hours, or I can show all messages. And let's go ahead and let's look at all messages. We've got a lot of successes in here. I'm not sure if we could even find a failure. But if we did, oops, did we pass one? No, all successes. If we do find a failure, one of the things that I wanted to show you here, yeah, this is a pretty bulletproof integration. If we did have an issue, if one of these failed, one of the nice things you're able to do is you're able to come in here and then you can view those message details. And those message details will give you exactly what happened, and anything that failed, you'll see this redlining like this. It'll take you right into the error. So you'll know exactly why things failed. You'll have the ability to fix anything manually here if you choose to. And then you can resubmit this for processing. So if this was a failure, I'd have a few more options here, but one of those is to resubmit it for operation. Okay, so that's a look at our workflows. And let's go ahead and let's try this out. Let's jump into our master database here. And we're going to go into the item master. And let's put in a new item. So we'll go into add mode. We're going to call this MW1001. And this is going to be, let's see, according to my PC, it's 424. So we'll put 424 new item test. Okay. And now one of the other fields that's being copied as well is the barcode. So we can come in here and see if there's a barcode or if we want to create a barcode. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's create a barcode. And this is for our MW1001. And this way we'll check and make sure that that field got copied over as well. Okay, let's add our new item. Now the item's been added. Let's go ahead and bring this up, MW1001, and there's our new item. So now, if we go into one of our other databases here we're into the IC Demo 1. This is one of my sister databases. Let's go into the item master, and let's look for an MW1001, and we can see that that item does not exist, no matching records. So let's go ahead and let's run SaltBox. To run SaltBox, let's go to our messages here, and we're going to push the run button. Now, the reason we have to push the run button is because if you recall on the workflow trigger, we're doing this manually. Now, let's change our messages here. Instead of saying, let's say what happened in the last 24 hours. And now we can see we just had a successful intercompany transaction. So let's go back to our intercompany database, again, IC Demo 1. Let's go back into our item master. And let's see if our MW1001, there it is. 424, new test item. We are off and running. So that's an example. Now, I'm also going to go into my other database, Intercompany 2. Let's jump in here. Whoops. I moved that out of there. Let's go into inventory, item master data. Let me put that back into common functions. And let's look for MW1001. And there it is. So we just seen us put a new item in our master database. Then we ran our SaltBox workflow. And let's go back to the workflows for a moment. Let's go to intercompany here. And so the workflow we just ran was create new item. So that was SaltBox working with just one of those workflows. Now, I won't go through all these other workflows, but you can see there's full consolidation. There's full intercompany trade, sales order to purchase order to sales order. You've got your GL consolidation. Now, this one is fantastic because it'll consolidate everything from one of my databases into my home database, my master database. And this will consolidate my second database into my home database. But it's nice because these two companies may be running on separate fiscal calendars. And so you have that flexibility and that complete control as to when things integrate from a multi-company, intercompany perspective. Now, we can also create brand new workflows. So if there's something unique that you want, then we can create those too. To finish up, let's take a look at just a little more intercompany here, just to kind of give you the full effect. But through SaltBox, like we saw, you can have companies in different currencies and in different countries. And you can have holding companies, and then those holding companies can roll up to higher level holding companies. You've got all your actual in-use companies as well. And the features that we have are the golden workflows that come out of the box is, of course, the GL consolidation. And so as you saw, it can be on demand or it can be scheduled. Mass data replication. In this case, we entered an item. but we can also turn this on for bill of materials, cost centers, projects, GL accounts, everything else that you want, anything else that you want. And then GL allocation. And this is a really neat one. This will allow me to be in any one of my companies and do a journal entry, and that journal entry can affect my other companies. I don't have to log to the other companies to do the journal entry. I can create one journal entry in one database, and it can affect all of my companies or a select few. So you've got the GL allocations. And then you have the intercompany trade. And we saw some of those workflows here, where company A needs something from company B, so they put in a purchase order to company B. That creates the offsetting sales order. When they ship the product, creates goods receipt in company A. And then when you do your normal AP processing, normal AR processing, the AP and the ARs get created. And then the consolidation creates the eliminations. We also have our custom intercompany templates. And this is where we can meet all kinds of unique requirements. So that's available to you as well. Now, there are some reporting options. All of the standard reports in Business One will work perfectly. So if all you need is a P&L down here, well, then you would log to this company and run a P&L. Now, if I'm at a holding company and I want to run a P&L for that company, well, then I use my segmentation in the GL to scale down what companies I want to look at when I run my P&L. Same with my top level company. So it's no new financial reports come into the mix with the intercompany solution. You're using the standard financial reports that come out of the box with SAP. And if you're aware, at 10.0, those financial reports now support drill down into the details. Now, there is an alternate reporting solution, and that's a feature called Sharper Light. And Sharper Light, what that will do, Sharper Light will give you the ability to pull data out of these databases or out of the consolidated database and do some pretty nifty financial reporting through a web browser without having to create new crystal reports in Business One. There's some really nice report templates you can use with Sharper Light. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this made sense and you saw something that resonated with you. But if you would like more information on the intercompany solution for SAP Business One through SaltBox, by all means, please visit www.vision33.com. Thanks for watching.